Thank you, Shakila. Yes, I left out that, but I wanted people to see the clinician side of me this time, not the researcher side. So Shakila has done quite a nice introduction of just who am I. As she said, I'm a speechy. I've got an MECI from the center and a PhD in AAC from the center, and I've had my LAMP training. I do just want to say I do not work for, receive any money for, or anything from PRC Saltillo, who are the guys who own LAMP, or from LAMP itself. I'm just somebody who loves working with tools that work. And in that regard, I see a lot of benefits of using LAMP. And so that is why I am doing the LAMP presentation today. And just for those of you who are looking, this is the little icon that you look for on the web store. And if you are looking for it, do type in LAMP words for life. If you miss out the words for life, you sometimes battle to find it. Unfortunately, we'll chat some more about this later, but LAMP is only available for Apple. And I'm not sure that they have big plans to make it available on Android. So let's have a chat. And then just as well, LAMP is an acronym, and you will discover why as we go through, for language acquisition through motor planning. And we will chat some more about that. So to begin with, I hope that what I'm about to say on this slide is not new to any of you. Um, the whole purpose of AAC and the whole function of language development and communication development is so our kids can become functional communicators, sharing their knowledge and ideas in the world. But how does this happen? And this is for typically developing children and special needs children. We still have auditory signals. This is not in any specific order. We combine those with natural consequences. We somewhere in there have to have a readiness to learn. We need a shared focus, and I'll come back to that in a second. And we need consistent and unique motor patterns. And if you combine all of those, we suddenly get areas of the brain connecting that can come together and start the process of not only learning, I want to go here in a full sentence that you use in one specific situation, but language, something which has meaning that you can manipulate. If you don't have the natural consequences, if things are too tightly scripted, then the language you learn doesn't really make sense and doesn't extend beyond one situation. If you don't have readiness to learn, and this is something that sort of I see a lot in some of the classrooms that I'm in, a child who's having a meltdown or who's having a bad day or is in a sensory swirl, um, they're not ready to learn. They're in what we call the bottom half of the brain. And when you're there, you're in fight or flight, and very little learning is going to happen. So we need to remember that with our kids. If they're having a breakdown, we need to stop, give them time, and get to a point where they can learn. The shared focus, and this is something I also chat a lot with a lot of the parents of my kids with, particularly in this day and age of devices. And I'm aware that I'm talking about a thing that's going to put another device in front of a child. Um, if we don't have another person to share a focus with, all we can look at developing is some level of language. We can't develop communication because if you're in front of a device, it doesn't talk back to you if you say something out of turn. It doesn't model for you the correct production. It doesn't respond appropriately. If it does, it's just luck. And it's there we get that natural consequence, and a lack of consistency are missing. And then it can be very difficult for kids to learn language. And then consistent and unique motor patterns. And this is something that LAMP focuses a lot on. And over the years, I have begun to see it as more and more important than I used to a few years ago. Speech is consistent and unique motor patterns. Every sound, every word, every sentence is a consistent motor pattern. They're unique to me because I say things marginally differently to everyone else, but they are consistent in their production and they have consistent meaning. I don't say dog one day and mean a specific dog in my house and say dog another day and mean a frying pan. They have consistent meaning. So, moving on from there, I hope that is a strong enough foundation. Why LAMP? I hope many of you have attended the other workshops. I was in the Avaz workshop. Unfortunately, I missed last Friday's on chat, not chat, TD Snap. And I hope you've got an idea of them. So why another one? Why do we need another system? And the first reason is that with LAMP, symbols are stored based on a contextual setup, not language structure. So what do I mean by that? Well, context means a situation. So in LAMP, if you look at this, this is, I know it's quite small, but it's the play page. So if I want to play with something and I'm thinking about playing with my toys, I go to the play page. And on that page, I will find all the verbs, all the nouns, all the objects or the descriptors that I may need for playing. We'll talk about where words that fit into multiple categories go later, but that is a contextual structure. Alternatively, a different app, and just to be fair, I've used, when I'm comparing to apps, I've used a various ones across the board. And just again, to be clear, this is not necessarily a criticism. It is a difference that you would need to decide based on the needs of your client. So language-based structures may well be better for adults than contextual-based structures. However, I feel in my practice with a lot of the children I work with, contextual structures are better. As an adult, it's much easier to find a word in a language-based structure, whereas contextual structures, I really have to think where words fit in. But just for comparison, if I were to go and I want to play and I'm in the language-based structure, suddenly if I want to play or I want to have a turn, I have to know, is turn a descriptor? Is it a place? Is it a food and drink? And I have to know where to find it. Whereas in the contextual-based structure, if I want to have a turn, I've got play and spin. Which I would use for turn. And so that is the difference. Things based on context or in one place versus language structure. And yeah, as I said, this is something that for me is quite important when looking at who I'm using a system with. Adults who have established language, who have a stroke or something like that, are more likely to be comfortable with a language-based structure. Children who don't know what a noun or a verb is or a describing word may well be more comfortable with a context-based structure. Secondly, Chiquila did mention she will be monitoring the chat. So if at any point you've got a question or a comment or you want to ask something, please do interrupt me. Feel absolutely free to do that. So yeah, please do. Secondly, oh, and that's the next question. Forgive me, I'm a little scatterbrained this afternoon. Again, these questions are not why you have to use LAMP, but they are things that you should consider with any system that you are going to be implementing with a client. So just have a think about these. What's the deal with motor plans? LAMP, language acquisition through motor planning. We hear a lot about motor plans from OTs. We hear a lot about dyspraxia from OTs. Speech therapists often have much less input in that regard. And I do think that that can be a challenge. So we're going to do a little experiment. To start off with, because I don't want you to get flustered and lose out on your time because you can't find it, If you can please go to the chat button and get ready with your thumbs up or a thumbs down, you'll see. And I want you to look at the screen and I want you to take your finger on your screen. Don't do it imaginary, actually do it. And I want you to type your first name. And as soon as it's typed, give me a thumbs up. Go. Rahab was quick. Okay, so I'm getting some nice thumbs up. Cool. Now I'm going to bring up a different keyboard and I want you to type your name. And now when you finished your typing your name, I want you to give me a thumbs up if you didn't have to think while typing, or a thumbs down or any other symbol you can find. We'll go with thumbs up for it was super easy. I didn't even think about it. And any other symbol for actually that was a bit more difficult. I had to think about it. Here is the different keyboard. All right. So what was the deal with that? This actually is an established keyboard. Sorry, I apologize. I'll give you guys a few more minutes. I see everyone's taking a while, but we're getting there. This is an established keyboard. You'll see it's got the vowels in the middle on the left and other things. Somebody has thought about it. I forget what it's called, but they've thought about it and they've arranged it in a certain way, and they thought that might be more effective than the QWERTY keyboard. Um, and interestingly, I'll go back to the QWERTY keyboard. For those of you who know, um, the QWERTY keyboard itself is not the most effective keyboard. It was established by people who used typewriters, designed typewriters, so that keys that were most often used, letters that were most often used next to each other, were as far apart as possible. Because on an old typewriter, if you push two letters next to each other down at the same time, they would get stuck. So QWERTY does not have any amazing powers, but it got brought into the system and everybody just got used to using it. And now it's just the standard and everyone just learns to use it and is used to it. So the difference between your first typing and your second typing was motor planning. You had a motor plan in your head for typing on a QWERTY keyboard, because everything that you use has got a QWERTY keyboard, whether it's Apple or Android or Microsoft or whatever you have, it has a QWERTY keyboard. Now, what if I told you that 87% of children with autism have motor impairments? Now, maybe not everyone here works with children with autism, but at the moment, that is really one of our most common diagnoses that we're seeing. If we think about children with cerebral palsy, they've all got motor impairments. If we think about other syndromes, other diagnoses, many, many, many of them have motor impairments, and many of those involve motor planning challenges. And so for kids who have motor planning challenges, it's almost like when they're learning a new pattern, it's like we're changing the keyboard every time they have to try and type it. It is hard. So I'm going to now bring in another dreaded component, well, a dreaded component of the LAMP program itself. This is the first time I've brought you here, and that's okay. This is the front page of LAMP. It's called the core page. And while we're talking about motor plans, I want to talk about that dreaded automatic back to home page. again, as adults who think through things and don't use the system automatically, we're looking for a button, we're looking for another button. It doesn't bother us too much if it jumps back. But you will discover if you use LAMP that you find a word, and as soon as you've hit it, it jumps back to the home page. Why? Why would I waste my time? I've just told you that all the words for play are under the play on the play page. So why do I hit play and then it goes away from the play page? And then I have to hit play again to get to turn. And I have to hit play again to choose the toy. Well, we have one more experiment for you. So if you will bear with me, I am now going to take you back to the QWERTY page. And I want you, please, this time on the QWERTY page to type your surname starting with the third letter. Not the first one or the second one, the third letter. And again, you can tell me how easy or difficult it was. Go for it. Oh, Judy said it was easy. Oh, everyone else said it was easy. All right, so this wasn't as difficult as using the weirdo keyboard. But I'm assuming that you did have to think a little bit to actually go, duh, duh, now I can start typing the rest of my surname. And that is what the automatic back is about. If I start a motor plan halfway through, I have to think about it. And that makes it harder. It increases our cognitive load, and we will chat some more about cognitive load just now. So just bear it in mind. You may, from time to time, when working with LAMP, choose to change the setup that you stay on a certain page, but there is reason behind it always jumping back to the home page. And the more you use LAMP and the more you watch your kids, they will, as they get the motor plans, be typing so fast you will hardly even notice that it's going back to the home page. Then, I'm just thinking, yes, I have gone wherever. Another thing about motor planning and LAMP is that as the vocabulary grows, our motor plan doesn't change. So you'll see this is our play page again in LAMP. There are lots of empty spaces. You can fill every single one of those empty spaces with words. You can put your own words in. But by doing that, you're growing the vocab and the words that are already there are not moving. As a comparison, if you look at the different colored boxes on a different platform, you will see that go starts off third row down and fourth from the left. It's still third row down and fourth from the left, but if you can see with all the extra symbols added on the bottom one, it's actually moved position. So if your motor plan was to get you 3 centimeters down and 4 from the left, now suddenly you have to move where your finger has to get to. Words like what start on the top row, mid-center, and now I added more words and suddenly it's to the left of center. A word like chat started in the bottom row and suddenly moved across to the far right. So again, when we're thinking of systems, when we're thinking about how do we grow a system, when we're thinking about how we're going to grow a system with a client that we're working with, we want to think about that. If they have absolutely no motor issues, it's not too much of a challenge if the motor plan changes, but remember, it's something new to learn. And so one of the benefits of LAMP is that the motor plan doesn't change as the vocabulary grows. One of the others is that no words require more than 3 hits to access. So again, if we've got motor plan challenges, we want the easiest way to get to a word. If I even think of typing the word apple, that's now you're going to get my maths, 5 letters that you have to type. On a lamp setup, you can get there in 3: apple, fruit, apple. Or eat fruit, apple is kind of how I in my head say it. Crash would be truck, crash, crash. And the reason the second one is because of the different verb settings, so that you've got all your tenses in there. And then the third one, dolphin, would be dog, water animals, and you would find dolphin. In comparison, on a different setting, to get to apple would be 4 hits, crash would be 5, dolphin would also be 5. And so it again is something to consider. If your kids are having motor challenges, we want them to have the easiest way to get to their words as possible. Just again, as I said, I'm not picking on any system. TD Snap has a motor plan version where they say you've got 2,700 words available with 3 or less hits. Avaz also has a motor plan version that can be set up. So other devices and apps are getting onto motor plan versions, and do look at those. But LAMP's foundation really is a motor plan. And in terms of that, I do want to chat a little bit. How is a hit different from speech? And how do we bring this all together with what do we do for speech? Well, if you think of the fact that saying the word apple takes 500 muscles, your facial muscles, your tongue, your jaw, your larynx, your respiration, and that doesn't even include your postural stabilization. And again, for our kids with great motor issues, they have to have postural stabilization to be able to talk. Those of us who have more typical motor development, we can do things like running or jumping and talking, but it's harder. Using motor planning and clicks on a screen actually is much easier than using speech. And again, it may come into some of these. Why do some of our kids who maybe can say some things or look like they can say things, but they're still not using speech? Maybe motor planning is playing a major role. You've got your hand and your finger muscles, you've got to have your wrist muscles, your arm muscles, your shoulder muscles, and then your postural stability. But actually using a device can be much easier. And where you have motor planning problems, that is a score to have something that is much easier. So I am going to now just mention one last thing. Motor planning is part of this, but it's not the only thing. I want to chat a little bit about information processing and cognitive load. And whatever device you choose for something is when we learn something, when we work with something, we have to use our memory. We have to use an information processing model. If we're only based on sensory memory, you can remember anything, like unlimited numbers, like your bottom on the chair, the sun streaming through the window on your arm, the prick of a pin for 3 seconds. But if we're actually going to do something with it, we can only remember about 7 seconds. Then we have to encode it, put it in long-term memory, and then we can come back and retrieve it and use it indefinitely. In order to encode it, we need to rehearse it and practice it. So if we are expecting children to find a word, we're not just expecting them to find a word. I'm playing a game with you right now. I want you to say go when you're ready for me to set the car off. The child's in the situation. They're having to dampen down sensory input that they don't want. They're having to focus on the car in spite of the fact that their peers are playing outside. They're having to think, what do I have to do? I have to say go. This is a child with special needs, so it doesn't automatically pop out their mouth. They have to think, how am I going to get there? Depending on where they are on the learning process, oh, I have to look at the screen. I have to get my hand there. I have to press there, then there. That's a lot on our kids, and that's what we call cognitive load. And we need to be aware of that, particularly in AAC. I think there is far too little said in AAC of the cognitive load that devices add to our kids' lives. And that is one of the things about about memory and motor planning. Once we've established a motor plan, it becomes automatic. We can take it out of the working memory basket. And so once you know where go is, you don't have to think about it anymore. Your hand goes there automatically. Again, if I give you an everyday example, if you go to the dentist, then they numb half of your mouth. And suddenly you find yourself slurring. Now, why is that? Well, your mouth's not working so well, but you've lost all your sensory feedback. And suddenly, to say a word, you have to think about it. We have to bring it back into working memory. It increases your cognitive load. And what happens for kiddos when we increase our cognitive load? It feels hard, really hard. It feels different. Like I did this yesterday and today it feels different. Did I get it right? That can increase anxiety. It feels untrue. Is this right? I think that's wrong. It felt a bit different because I didn't know. And it can feel bad. And we are in the position where we need to walk them through those feelings and allow them those feelings so they can learn that it's okay and they can produce the right answer at the end. But I do think quite often, if we look at our kids and look at their responses, and actually not even kids, adults too, adults who were previously verbal, who've stroke, car accident, whatever it might be, ALS, the amount of frustration they experience. And these feelings come into it, and they might have an explosion or get withdrawn and stop and refuse. And it's not them being difficult, it's often them being overwhelmed. So, where have we got to? Symbols stored in context, shared motor plan, doesn't change as the vocab grows. Nobody needs more than 3 hits to access. One of the other really nice things of LAMP, very recent, is the low vision version is now available. This is what the low vision version looks like. We can have a look a bit more at it later. It is almost identical to the normal version. I will show you the difference. One primary differences with it is that in your second layer, not the core page, but the second page, usually in LAMP, the verb with all its are, is, were, was, on. I'll show you in pages as we come just now. What they've done in the low vision page is the verb for the core word is directly behind the button. So you press drink and exactly the same place to get the word drink when you're on multiple page sets. When you're on the core only page, you hit it once and it's fine. But that to me makes quite a lot of sense. The other thing I wanted to remind you about, we know with kids with cerebral palsy, 60 to 70% of children with cerebral palsy have some level of visual impairment or cortical visual impairment. What I could find on the research is 10 to 20% of children with ASD, autism. But I do have to challenge that because we know that the incidence of sensory impairments or sensory integration challenges with children with autism is way higher than 20%, if not close on 100%. It's not as, but it's very high. And vision's a funny thing because if you've always seen it looking like that, maybe that's just what vision is like. You learned a heart was like that, and sometimes when you looked at it, it went fuzzy, and sometimes when you looked at it, it kind of moved, and sometimes if you shook your head, it actually was easier to. We just don't know what the real incidence is, but I do want to point out that with CVI, using high visibility strategies, in a lot of cases, can children with cortical visual impairment. So it's definitely worth considering, even if your child doesn't have a diagnosed visual impairment. Sometimes there will be children who you are wondering, are they seeing it, aren't they seeing it? And you might want to try the low vision version. All right. Um, and then in terms of LAMP, no, there are over 4,000 words in the full version with lots of spaces. So there's loads of words in there. You can definitely add hundreds of words, but it comes ready-made. And I'm going to tell you a secret that they didn't tell you at varsity. To make an AAC system that is functional, you need thousands of words. To be designing a system yourself from scratch, I really do believe is beyond the expertise and the time restraints of any sane therapist. If you're a researcher and you're looking at everything across the world and that's your job, go for it. But I do believe quite strongly that we need to really be thinking about, we need to give our children these words. We need to give them 4,000 words if they're going to learn language. We don't say 6 words to a baby for the first year of their life and expect them to develop language. We would say 6 words and expect them to develop 6 words. And so children need to have access to those, even if they're not using all of them. You know, the days that they bat on the screen randomly, they might find a word they want to use that you haven't taught them. And again, we talk around children so often. We just stand having a discussion about our long weekend and how useless our husband is. And the children are sitting right here, whether they're typically developing or special needs, they hear all of that language. Every teacher in the world will tell you of the child who's come into the classroom and sworn, and nobody sat down and taught them to swear. It was in their environment. And so I do feel quite strongly that we have a lot of well-researched apps and communication devices. And we can do a lot worse than using those that other people have set up and researched. And I think sometimes we are not being fair to our kids if we try to implement our own systems without having that research behind it. And then secondly, LAMP is based on MinSpeak or Unity, which very well researched, and they've shown over the years how good it can be. So those are my reasons for why LAMP. Are there questions at this time that people want to ask about LAMP itself, the foundations, things like that?
Kirsty? I
Yes.
don't see any questions, just some comments to say thank you, nice demo. But maybe if you
Okay,
want to pause a minute and see if people actually type something in.
sure.
But thus far, we don't have any.
Okay. And if you do have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask if you don't feel like typing in. I'm just pausing here because we're going to, from this point on, go into a time where we're really looking at LAMP itself. How is it set up? Where are the icons? How to change buttons, how to program and things like that. So before we move on to that, if there are any kind of theological, I think is the theoretical questions or comments you'd like, please do put them down. Waltraud, I do not know. It is the PRC LAMP person at a workshop not so long ago. I don't know. I feel that it's a bit of a elitist situation, that a number of apps are only available on Android, not Android, on Apple. It comes from historically, very simply, is Apple was the first tablet that came out, and they started working on Apple, and that's fine. And a lot of the research has been done on that. And it requires a whole different, obviously, language team in terms of computer coding language to get it ready for Android. For some reason, PRC and LAMP are not looking into that, and I do have an issue with that. I don't think it's fair on anyone who does not come from highly developed countries, but it just is how it is. Then I saw a comment about how does it support literacy? It absolutely supports literacy, and I will give you a demonstration of that just now. And I'm going to write myself a note to not forget about that as we go through. The only reason I'm not doing it now is because I am not on my iPad yet. I'm going to switch to that in a minute. And once it's on it, then it's easier for me you there. All right. At any time, if you want to ask a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. If you or type in the chat, please don't feel shy about that. If you guys did download the new voice software, you might want to open it now. It'll help you to see and click and press as we go through things. So although LAMP is not available in a demo model or as a free model, you can go onto the PRC and LAMP website and download the new voice software, and you can get copies of it. That it has various benefits. In that you can get to know LAMP yourself, you can practice for sessions, you can also use the new voice software, if you guys look up in the corner, to print low-tech versions of LAMP. You can see I've got a super thick folder here. This is one of my kids' low-tech versions that you can put together for them. You can print front pages, and a lot of that is also available, just so you know, on the PRC website. So you don't have to sit and print each page one at a time. You can literally download the low-tech version and hit go, and it'll print. I think it's got about 97 pages in there, which might not be every single page. You might be one or two you want that aren't there, but then you can go and do those yourself. But it is very easy to get a low-tech version out of it and use it. All right, so from here, let's chat a little bit and let's explore LAMP a little bit. Just to begin with, it uses the Fitzgerald key, which was designed originally for deaf children actually to learn English grammar. And they put a colored block in certain orders, and the children knew what kind of word they had to put in which place when they were learning grammar. It's used a lot in AAC just to help everyone understand the different kinds of words and help demarcate areas on the screen. So for example, pronouns are yellow, verbs are green. In this case, nouns are not all orange, but the basic Fitzgerald key is there. It's called the Fitzgerald key for AAC. It has been adapted. The other thing to notice on the setup of LAMP is opposites are actually not next to each other. So in a lot of systems, and if you're doing it yourself, and I'm thinking I need big and small, I'm going to go big, small, put them next to each other. Now, again, when we're working with children with motor challenges or intellectual challenges, if big and small are right next to each other, sometimes I might hit the wrong one. And did I get the right one? It's more difficult. Hopefully, your contextual feedback will tell you that you got the right one or the wrong one. But in terms of motor planning, LAMP actually separates them further away from each other. So slow is down here, fast is up there. Little is at the top of the screen. Big is bottom rightish corner of the screen. So that's where those are. The most important thing I can teach anyone who's ever going to use LAMP, how to find a word. So again, if you look at the screen, and because we're not children, and because a lot of you don't use this every day, you're going to be like, I don't know where the word monkey is. I see nothing that's leading me to a monkey. So most importantly, go up. That's supposed to be a 1. That's not 10. It's step number 1. Hit the menu button. You will find a menu that pops down and you will see something called Word Finder. Your best friend is Word Finder. You will click on Word Finder. It'll bring up a box. You will type in what you want and it will show you the sequence to get there. So Word Finder is off your menu button. It's super easy and really easy to do. I'm going to do some more editing with you just now, as I said, when I switch across. Just to show you a bit more of other things, that menu button, we've got, you can change pronunciation of a word. I'll show you some of those. I've got a couple of fun ones in there. You might want to edit abbreviations. I don't use that, to be honest. You can get into settings, change voices, change all sorts of things. I'll show you how to use that. Edit your page, edit your vocab builder, we'll talk a bit more about, and your word finder, and then help. Two notes to think about. When you're editing a page and changing a button, you want to be on the page that you want to edit. So if you hit edit page and you're on the front page and you want to add a word 3 pages down or 3 clicks down, it's going to only open the front page for you. So you just need to bear that in mind before you hit edit page, that you're in the right place. Tab builder is what we use when we want to hide something that we don't want children to see. And this we use a lot, particularly when we're introducing and teaching motor plans for the first time. So we will go into that. I will show you how that works. I want you to think about something with Vocab Builder, and this is also what I've said too. Do we limit our child to only saying and learning words that we have taught them? If so, how do they learn new words? Bearing in mind that I do not have time, no parent has time to teach their child the 8,000 or more words that they're going to need in their daily life to survive. And so as we chat about Vocab Builder, I'll say a bit more about that, but please do bear that in mind. We'll talk some more as well, changing the vocab. So there are different versions of vocab. There's one hit, which means the core vocab. You only have one page. It's all of the core words. We'll go through them a little. You can make hundreds of sentences, but missing a lot of the specific vocab, or what we call fringe vocab. So we can say, I want that instead of I want dog. But you can do a lot with that. You can say hundreds of sentences in a context. You can get yourself very well understood. You'll see that's the visual impairment version. Also one hit, also a full version. You can, in English, French, there are multiple languages, the full version. What I will say about changing the vocab and everything else that's under this, you can't save when you load up LAMP, you can't save changes under a generic version. They've got kind of their main version, and you then need to put your name. So the full version I call full Kirsty, and that's how I save it. And then all my changes are there. You can import and export vocab. You can have a Dropbox account on your iPad, and you can save a vocab. And then if you want it available on another device or another iPad, you can then import it there, have the Dropbox on that iPad too, and you can import and bring it across. And you can create new vocabs if you want, but we will go to that. If anyone has any questions, wait. Oh, last thing. That's what I had to think about. The symbols. Why the symbols? And I know, I will be perfectly honest with you. If I have a parent who has been sent to me and is feeling quite negative about AAC, LAMP might not be the app that I use with their child, depending on their responsiveness to my discussions with them, because a lot of people hate these symbols, and it just is what it is. They are the unity symbols. No, A 3-year-old is not going to know that the little man pointing at a wanted poster is want. No, they're not necessarily going to think that a dog with a newspaper in his mouth is come, but we will teach them that. We don't have to understand what dog looks like in written format to be able to use it. We can speak and not be able to write and be able to use those words. Um, and so, in terms of our kids, we can just teach them that's where you go. I mean, some of our children, and in the olden days of old communication I say olden days, a few years ago before iPads, with communication devices where we didn't have screens that flipped through every time we pressed a button, kids learned off by heart that if I go here, 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 I get this word, or here, 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 I get that word. They learned those patterns off by heart. And so it doesn't actually really matter what the symbol is. We're going to teach them that if you go here, that's what it is. We use the symbol, we show them. If we need to, we might describe them to help them get the visual, to help them focus their hand. But in the long run, the motor plan's going to get there. So please don't worry about the symbols. Your child will learn the symbols as we use them in context. We're not expecting the children to decode the symbols. Okay. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay. I'm going to now switch across to my iPad. If you will give me half a second to do that. Screen, start. Okay. And hey, there. Okay. It's a tiny bit delayed. Should be popping up. And there we've got our lamp screen. So as I showed you before, when we're on our lamp screen, we've got over on the left-hand side, we have got the pronouns. If you look across in the middle, there's a bright green little man. He's called the action man. Um, what's important about him is on every subsequent page, that is where the verb is going to be found. So if I want to say the word go, and if you look across and down, you will find a little frog with a little robot. Then you press on that. And to say go, suddenly go is in the same position as that little action man. Now, that does help because when talking about verbs and teaching children about verbs, they learn the pattern. Any verb, the first one is go, the present tense. Goes, continuing. Now you're going to hold me up because I'm a speech therapist and I'm going to forget what these tenses are called. Then we go going. Then we go went, gone, and to go. And for each verb, we follow that process. So I can go, you'll see further down, there's another green one. That's another verb. I can hit escape and all the formats of escape are there. I'm going to hit escape and it's gone back, as I said to you, to the main page, the core page. Same thing under time. So time, one of the verbs there is start, and you can see all the different forms of start on your screen. Age, the verb is up in that same position. So again, just like we learn initially when you're a child, I mean, you didn't have to think that running, sitting. You just learnt it and it just happened. Your language center processed all of that for you. And so in the same way, like our brains learned to add what you call it, add ing onto the ends of words, our kids can learn to add ing just by always using the button to the right of the verb. What is important to note is if you add verbs, you might want to think about adding them within that process. So if I go to a page like and I want to add another verb. Oh, and I'm going to think maybe for some reason I want to add hate. I would probably want to put hate in one of the black blocks and then hate, hates, hating, hated, and put them in the right order. Sometimes we add verbs and things and we don't necessarily put in all the grammar, which might affect our child's ability to use them as a proper, call it declining verb later on. So I showed you earlier, if you go to the menu button, you've got the menu that comes up. And we spoke earlier about the word finder. If I go in there, I can click on it. I can say, how about a nice word like God? Find, and you'll see it takes me there. What I didn't show you earlier is if you click on it, it'll go gray. And now what it does is it highlights the part that the child needs to take. So to learn your motor pattern for the first time, they go for that. And then they click the next one and it says the word, and they have had their first opportunity to learn the motor plan in an errorless learning format. Now, I also spoke earlier about the vocab builder. So again, if you use your menu button and you click on vocab builder, it now brings up a list like this. And sorry, I'm waiting for yours. There it comes. And I can now write or include in this list any words that I want. So I don't know, I might put apple. That's in the wrong place. Apple. I type it up, various things come up, and I just put a little click next to it. What else? Let's put something really weird like piano. Ah, there's piano. And I've ticked it. Now, when I'm done, when I want to use my vocab builder, I go and I turn it on. In that button at the bottom, it's green, and I now hit done. And suddenly my screen disappears, all of the words disappear, and I've got a very limited vocab. Now, just to tell you guys, I already had some words in there from one of my sessions, and so that is why more words than apple and piano have come up. Now, if I want to find those words, I can go on the bottom to eat, fruit, apple. And the entire sequence that I need, whoopsie, let me move that, is available for your child to get to that one word. If I want piano, I can go more piano and it arrives there. So when you're starting out teaching words and teaching motor plans, we do often use the vocab builder. What I often do, however, is that I will start a lesson like this, and I will actually turn the vocab builder off. What is nice to know is when you turn it off and on without using anything else, all the words, see how your child does with all the other noise around. Have they got the motor plan? Piano was more piano. Okay, they've got piano. Have they got apple? Maybe they went eat, and instead of doing fruit, they did dairy and cheese. And we know they need to practice apple a bit more. So I tend to use the vocab builder a lot in individual sessions. But then actually, when I send the child home, and as soon as we're out of the initial learning phase, I actually turn it off. And that comes back to I want them to learn the other words. They've got natural consequences if they use the wrong word because it will talk and tell them the wrong thing. They've got the auditory feedback if they use the wrong word, that it will talk and tell them the wrong thing. And their world will be able to provide them with feedback so they can adjust. Again, they might need help. I'm not being totally mean, but it is one of the reasons that I will generally send the child home. If I've got homework or if there's something specific the parents and family want to work on, I'll teach them how to use the vocab builder. We'll set it up. We'll go in there. We'll make sure all the words are on. You can hit show in your vocab builder. You can disable all and get rid of everything in one shot if you've done something for one child and you're doing something different for another child. And you can also use quick edit where you literally type in a word, or a phrase. Oh, I'm typing on the wrong thing. My dog is fat. Add word, done. And it should come on. Oh, it's being ugly with me today. Sometimes it include, let's just go, then we'll add one by one and it'll add them. And now it's got my and a space, so it's my name is. That's not what I actually want, so I will delete it. Go away. But we can go through, and it depends. I tend to like scrolling through the list. I will turn off show all. And I just click, click, click as I go down, but you can literally type and enter. So that's your vocab builder. And there I've got those. Oh, some of you may ask, why is my screen black? That I will show you how to do. That again is because I work with a number of children with cortical visual impairment of various levels. And I prefer the black background to the white background for empty cells. I find that the other cells pop more when there's a black background. So that is a personal preference. Let's chat very quickly before I go down there about pronunciations. If we go to edit pronunciations, you can see we've got a whole list of things that are in there. Barbecue, CEO, Nova Chat. And this is one I will bring up because this is a good South African one. You can go. So the thing about the edit pronunciations is if you type in a word or a combination of letters, let's call it that, and tell it how to pronounce it, anytime that combination of letters is used in the device, it will say it correctly. So you don't always want you don't want to change it only on one button because maybe your child becomes literate and maybe they're typing Nachi later on. And then if you don't have it in your pronunciation version, it will kind of sound it out phonetically and say it phonetically instead of as we would, as South Africans like it, as Nachi. And so I've discovered if you pronounce it as Nartchie, oh, I've turned the sound off. I apologize. It says Nachi, and it actually sounds like Nachi. So your pronunciation is really cool. You know, I pretty much always land up putting Nachi in on my fruit page. With it being Heritage Day the other day, we added boerewors to all the kids' food pages. And so, you know, that was great for them. I'm just going to turn off my vocab builder because I want to show everyone the no, I did it wrong. Okay. No, it is off. Let me just go to, oh, it's just taking a moment to catch up. So that's that. So the pronunciation is very nice to do. And as I said, if you type it out later, it will then say it correctly. You're not stuck with weird things. Just to have a quick look at your settings. So if you are using the iPad with different children with different setups, different voices, different vocab builders, different things like that, you would want to save the profile under a specific name. So if I know, and if somebody's using a switch and somebody else isn't using a switch, you would want to save those profiles. And those are kind of your settings for the whole page. And then for each child, you can then load the profile that you're working with. That is not the same as saving all the changes that you've made. Saving the settings of what voice are you using? How fast does it speak? Does the button make a click sound? Things like that. Under settings, you will see this is all the things you can do. Does your button make a click sound? Do you want to hide the back button? Sometimes we want to hide it because the children just go back, 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 back. And sometimes we do want to hide it. Then the status bar is the top bar. And if you have a child, again, we're talking motor planning difficulties, you might want to think of having a key guard. Do Google the internet. There is a website that literally has the pattern for different key guards. You can select which iPad you have and which case you have. Sometimes they don't have all the cases we have. And you can select exactly how big it is. And they actually have a thing that you can print out and take to someone who cuts acrylic and say, cut me a piece of acrylic with exactly this pattern, and you can get a key guard made. So do search the internet for the key guard patterns. And then when you are having a key guard, you want to have it ready for an inset. And you'll see there where I took it off, my whole screen jumped a little bit bigger. If I put it in, oh, no, you didn't see that. I apologize. Basically, the border around my screen on my iPad got a little bit bigger for a key guard, so that obviously there's space for that to fit in. The other thing, I do set passcodes on my kids' iPads and on LAMP for my kids. I use the menu passcode, and basically I put a passcode in. To be simple, a lot of the kids I work with are at early stages of literacy, and actually for ease of functioning, just type their first name is my current. Once they get to the point that they can actually type their own first name, well, then I think they're ready to have access to their menu button, to be perfectly honest. And so you can turn that on and off. You can say that obviously I have to put, you'll see it shouting at me. It says my password cannot be blank. But if I've got a password, I can turn it on and off. It is a bit irritating if you're programming with it, because every time you hit menu, you have to put it in. So often if I'm busy doing a couple of things, I'll quickly turn it off. And then when I'm ready to go, I'll turn it on again. The voice, you have different voices you can choose. These are all just downloaded voices. You can see a lot of them you can download. Some of them you have to pay for them. Some of them you don't. So this is also one of the challenges. You can see there is a South African female voice there. This point, the South African voices and other language voices aren't available for Apple. We hope it's coming, and there's been a really nice study down at UCT last year that is helping us some more voices. So I'm hoping those are coming really soon. But you can choose your voice, lots of different options. Have a look at it. You can choose how fast they speak or how slowly they speak. And rate isn't just about what sounds nice to you. For our kids who have slower processing, you may well want to slow down the rate of speaking for them. You can change the pitch. So if you happen to like a South African accent, but it's a girl voice, you can make it lower or higher until you find the one that you like. I let parents choose the voice. That's on them. They can choose that, but I might adjust the rate later on. As you saw earlier, and I'll show you again, I happen to have, I don't know why I've got French. French just landed up on my most recent download, but you can have different languages, and then you can choose a second voice, second rate, second pitch. And novelty voices are like, you can program a button to say weird stuff. Your speech display bar, you can hide it. Personally, maybe controversial. I don't know why you'd ever hide it. It gives children an extra visual feedback on what they've just pressed. And so I definitely don't know why you'd ever hide the speech display. Allowing copy and paste and auto capitalization, you can see what you need. Copy and paste is great because you can, from LAMP, copy and paste into Word documents, WhatsApp, all sorts of other things that you may have available to a child. So things like that, the further you get down the literacy track, the more you're going to use them. You can change your font if you want to change your font, and there are different fonts. That is more relevant if you're getting onto languages that have different letters. So Russian, Arabic, Hebrew, things like that, you would want to change your font for those. And then you can change your background color, your number of lines, your cursor. Do we want to see the flashing cursor? Do we want to be able to put the cursor in the middle of a word? Again, those are things that are more relevant the further you get down the literacy track. And that just is going to depend on where you are. And you can change what happens when I tap the key speaker bar. So I can have it speak, I can have no action, and I can have a copy and paste action that I can put in. I can highlight the spoken words, and I can highlight for the phone and things like that. So there are lots of different things. You can change your speech settings, data logging, just in terms of that, so that you know what it is. Realize Language is a computer-based program you can sign up for that analyzes every keystroke that is used on the iPad. I don't use it. It is somewhat more expensive. It could be really, really useful, but it would allow you to then know exactly, did they use the device this week? Because you can see everything that's been used in the time. You have to sign up for an annual subscription with it, which is one of the things I've found for most of my parents is beyond their abilities. And then you can change how your buttons work. How long do you want to use it? If you've got poor motor coordination, do you only want it to press when you release, so a child can get their finger on a screen, slide their finger across, and only lift it up when they've got onto the button they want? That would work for that. You can enable head tracking, you can enable social networking and scanning and all sorts of things. So those are your settings. I see. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm seeing a couple of questions. Let me just see. I haven't missed anything. Can I please demonstrate a sentence? I will do so. And to do that, now I'm just going to see. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to apologize, mine is not going to speak because of feedback and stuff. I've had to turn off the sound on my iPad. Maybe I can turn it back on. Let me see. And I might have to share sorry, now I'm flipping it sideways. Come, get us some volume. And we'll flip the right way around. And then I need to just go into these settings. I apologize. Audio. Sorry, I am going to. Uh, okay, I've just turned off the device audio. I'm going to stop my share and come back. Oh, I know why. Sorry, that is why I didn't have any sound because I've turned it off so that I don't get this weird echo and back and forth. So in the menu setting, when you go to your settings, if you have uploaded into your Apple device the bubbling text, you will be able to find it there under your texts. I have not done that. Where did my text go? It was in here in my settings there. So if you've uploaded it as a font on your device, you should be able to upload it there. All right, let's go back. What else? Oh, I needed to show you the vocabularies. So on top writer's menu, settings, everything to do with all of that. We've shown you the vocab builder, and now I'm going to show you edit page. So as I said earlier, if I hit edit page now, it pops it up. Oh, wait, I've lost my sharing of the screen. I was supposed to get you back to that. Um, it's coming. Okay, so as you can see, um, when I hit edit page, it's gone red on the top. So that's how I know I'm busy editing. And now any button I press on, it's going to give me an option to edit, remove it, or copy it. So that is something, and something I realized I forgot to chat about. I'll come back to it in a moment. Words that might land up in multiple places. If you want to copy a word somewhere else, the exact same button, just put it on a different page, you can do so. I'm going to just go done. But if I wanted to edit something that's 2 or 3 hits down, for example, in ride, I wanted to fill up one of these black spaces. I need to be on that page to fill it up. And actually, I will go into my trucks and things. And if you see at the bottom, there's a bulldozer and a digger with photos. Those are different things I've added for my kids. So now I'm on this page. We've got a weird thing. We use a different name than the Americans. I want to edit it or I want to add it. I go to menu, edit page, and I choose my spot. Anywhere on the page, I kind of try to keep everything a little bit separate as long as possible. So I'd probably add at the bottom there, I'd go create new button, and who knows? Actually, do you know what they probably don't have? Is a tuck tuck. So let's add tuck tuck. Now, oh, not a tux tuck. You can see I went to Tickies. Tuck tuck. Okay. Now we can check our pronunciation. You hit the button, it'll say it, and I might go tuck, tuck, and you'd hit pronounce and it'll say it. Now we need to choose our image, and we've got, if it were a word like apple, something would have popped up. So if I go back and put it as simple as this, apple in, now automatically an option will pop up and you can scroll through and choose whichever one you happen to like. If it's not a word that is automatically in there, so like tuck tuck is not, there are 2 options. You can either select an image, and they've got min speak and user symbols. So if your family owns or you own a symbol stick set or a set of symbols or another set of symbols, those would usually come out of user symbols. You can import them and have them in there and save them. The min speak symbols are all here. You can scroll through different things and look for different activities, Or you can again just type in your word. If your word's Apple, everything relating to Apple will come in or apply or whatever it might be. So for tuk tuk, I don't know what we're going to find, but let's try tricycle. I'm not even sure if that's how you know it's a tricycle. And a picture of a tricycle, kid's tricycle came up, but not a tuk tuk. So I go, okay, don't want to use that. I'll go cancel, cancel, and it'll take cancel one more and it takes me back there and I could hit import image and I can now go into an image library. So that's in the gallery of my camera, or I can go to the camera itself and it will open the camera. I can take a photo of whatever it is and it will import it straight in. Excuse me, that's the thing I'm using as a stand. I'll shift it up a bit. I'll use the photo and now my picture's in there. I can say that's okay and it's done. Um, for individual things, and your border width. Obviously, that's something you would want to rather change across the board unless it's for something specific. And then actions at the bottom. This is the third hit after another two. I don't want to go to any other pages after this hit, so it's only going to be a speech message. I am going to cancel. Okay, I'll save it for now. Now, interestingly enough, oh, because I put Apple at the top, it's telling me that it's assigned somewhere else. I might still want to put it on that page, and that's okay. So I'm just going to say continue saving, but I could also have said show me where it is. Maybe I'm adding a word that I don't need to add. And then I can say done, and now I go Apple, and it takes me Apple because I took tuck tuck away. And it takes me to the top. If I want to, so sorry, let me go, for example, on time. So I want to add a verb and I wanted to do it so that it opens a whole new page so I can put my verb in the verb place with all its different declensions. I can still go, whoopsie, sorry, I'm just going anywhere there. Edit page. I can still find a blank button, create a new button. I don't know what it's going to be a verb. So we've got to go bounce. Um, there it's given me a nice bounce. That's quite nice. I've got an image. Then when I come to button action, is if you look at the body color and I click on it. Now if I scroll up, it shows me what color I should use for nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives. So I'll mark it as a verb. And when I scroll up, now I want to add an action. And it says jump to page. And you jump to page. I haven't set up this page yet. It's a bounce page. It's a new page. If you want to go to a page that exists, you can choose a page. All of these are pages that exist. But if you want to go a new one, you hit in the little cross on the top right corner and you can set up a new page. I'm going to call it bounce. It's a normal page. I can choose my background color. For some reason, I'm making it red. And I can see if I need an image. I don't need an image for it. Or maybe I should. Let's select an image. Let's just use MinSpeak because it's there and go bounce. Bounce. Save. Okay, and save. Again, I've got the word somewhere else, so it's shouting at me. I'm just going to, I can show where it's stored, and it shows me that should find bounce, but I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to continue to save it there. And now, if I say done, if I click on bounce, it opens a new page. Now, it looks a little funny because I clicked a few interesting things when I chose the color. And here I will now go edit page and I will add bounce. And then I'm just going to continue and do all of that. And my bounce is now there. And so now when I hit it, it says bounce and you put your different things in. Um, so, um, quick change before I go too far, and I'm just having a check of the time. I need to stop and let people ask questions. One last thing that I want to say to you guys is this thing of, that's fine, there, share. I want to chat a tiny little bit about somehow I seem to have lost, where have I gone? Dunk, not references. Just this thing of having words that, sorry, I've lost it. I will find it in a minute. That have dual meanings, homophones, things like that, and having words in different settings. Um, Typical children, oh, there we go. Um, Typical children from about 4 years old start understanding and using homophones. So that's great. Um, but actually, research has shown that before grade 5, children's ability to understand a new word that is a homophone of an or a homonym of an older word can actually be impaired by the word that they know. So in LAMP, there are certain situations where homonyms, homophones, homographs actually have different places, even though they sound the same. So, for example, feet and feet will be in different places. Um, and what I tend to do, because again, it's this thing, I want to make life as easy as possible. My kids are already having difficulty learning and using language and communication. And so I want to make it as easy for them as possible. And so if I'm going to have a bat in the animals and I'm going to have a bat under sports equipment, it's the same word, different places, but a homophone. And I'm going to do that. And by putting things where they belong with the context, it makes it easier for our kids to understand and learn. I'm fully supportive that once they hit grade 5 and beyond and they're at that level, we may slim down some of those words so they don't have to go into animals to find bats. They can use the bat from the sports field if that's closer and easier for them. But that I'm gonna super fast because I see I'm running out of time. Fly through a couple of ideas for therapy, and then you guys can ask some more questions. How about using LAMP for a beginner? So I am going to go again, sorry, stop and share all the time. I'm going to go back to LAMP. Okay, so we're here. Couple of ideas for you for therapy for beginners. Single word, beginner learner, not much language. How about singing a song, giving them a word? How about, and this will be one that I do, I'll put it into Vocab Builder because this is where I start. I'll disable all and I'll include bus, hooter, wheels, wheels, and wipers. Okay, I've turned it on And I'm there. And suddenly this is what my screen looks like. And I will now go. The wheels on the, and I wait. And I've shown them where it is. And the first few times I demonstrated. And then bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all over town. The wipers on the bus go swish, swish, swish. So you can see how the child gets to play a role in an activity. And you don't have to have LAMP to do this, to be perfectly honest. This isn't a LAMP strategy. This is an AAC strategy. If you've got a single button or a single symbol, give it to the kid. Let them have it. And every time it's their turn, let them have a role in the song. They can choose what they want to do. They can choose the order. Do they want to choose bus? I've got one child who thinks it's hysterical. He hates it if I limit him. He wants to tell me the taxi cab goes round and round and the truck, the wheels on the truck go round and round. And so he loves it. He thinks it's funny. Every time I do it and it's not bus, he laughs himself silly. And it's lovely because he's learning all that other vocab. Um, Similarly, for counting, things like that, you can give them a number. Your number is number 2 today. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can have 6 kids in the class who each have a number. And every time it comes round, that's quite fun to do. I do lots of cause and effect toys. Stop, go. So I often work in opposites. So I'll do stop and go together. I'll do more and finish together. I'll do same and different together. I'll do fast and slow, up and down, so that we can contrast them. And I will start usually with the vocab builder on, get them have those options, and then I will open it up and we'll play a bit. And if they give me the wrong word, if we're playing with the cars and they're trying to get to fast and by mistake they say more, I'll go, oh, you want some more? Do we need more cars or do we need more buses? What do we need more of? Tell me what we need more of. And I happen to have a bag with cars and trucks and bulldozers and rocks. And so we can get to it. Can now choose more cars. On that, after my whole spiel of motor planning, um, you will notice that I say I get them to a page. I firmly subscribe to backward chaining for learning rather than forward chaining motor memory or motor planning. So forward chaining is when I learn the first step first and the second step second and the third step third. Backward chaining, if I've got 5 steps, I'll learn the 5th step last. And somebody else will do steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and I will do step 5 and I will see the effect of it. And so if I learn step 1 and somebody else has to do 2, 3, 4, and 5, I don't really feel like I did it. And for kids who are having difficulty learning and they need to see the consequence really quickly, I feel backward chaining is quite effective. And so I will start my kids off. I'll press the button, they watch. I'll press the button and they'll choose bus. And then the next time I'm there, or the next time when they're ready for it, I will stop on the second page and they will choose land vehicles and bus. And then when we're ready for it, they will go ride, land vehicles, bus, and do the whole sequence themselves. So I do backward chaining of motor learning. Um, so those were some things. Pouring games, more finished in, out, you, me, oops. Classroom activities. Have you ever thought of giving a child with a severe disability, making them a classroom monitor? Every time work has to start or stop, they can say go or stop. Every time they walk somewhere, they say go or stop. My turn, your turn, really nice things for beginner learners. And then in the classroom again for literacy, what about assigning a child a word in a book? And excuse me 1 second, I'm marginally far now. Maybe I can reach it. Um, I was very excited the other day to get the felt things. Excuse me making a plug for Temu, but Temu sells the felt things for the hungry caterpillar, and they're awesome. And so I've got the book of the Hungry Caterpillar, and for my early communicators, I will assign them one word. And it starts off, the caterpillar's looking for some food, and words that are recurring and repeated is he ate through and but he was still hungry. So depending on the child, I would either allocate ate or hungry. Both of those are under the eat button. So I might go ate, or alternatively, I might go hungry. And as we're reading the story, every time we get to their word, they say their word. So they're reading along. They're having to follow. I'll help. I'll look at them. I'll go, it's your turn. And they'll say their word. And again, this is a lovely thing to do with multiple children in the class. So everybody's got a job. Even children who are verbal can use devices. And there has been some lovely research, and is some needs to be lots more, but there is some lovely research suggesting how children can benefit in their receptive language development from having the visual and the auditory in front of them, especially your slow processors and kids with receptive language challenges, verbal or non-verbal. So that is that. And then physical games, fast, slow, loud, stop, jump, stop, go, stop, fast, more, finished, you, me. That's all for your single word learners. I will stop this sharing and just put you back on the other page so you can see it. So those are kind of single word entry level things that you might want to do. If you are now have a go there two-worder, so you're moving a bit beyond your entry level, you start introducing your pronouns. Who's going? Is it I go or you go? I stop, you stop. Um, Big go, little go fast, go slow. Go on, go in, go out, go up, go down. Read more, play more, go more, cargo. Cargo, bus stop, dog go, I finished. So, this is kind of what I also want to show you is although I say we don't need a huge vocab and we want lots of words, we don't necessarily have to build two-word sentences with a whole new vocab. We just take the vocab we have. And that is also what helps build language and communication in terms of teaching children to build novel sentences with the words they know. And then if you've got three-worder kids, what about negatives? I do not. I don't want to go. You don't go. I feel big green dog. I want you stop. You can see the ideas out there. The other thing I wanted to put here is please notice this is the first time I have used colors, food, shapes. Um, there are so many more words, core words that we can begin with than red, green, blue, black, circle, triangle, and I can do so much more. And if you don't know what word to look at, go and look at the beginning pages, the front page of LAMP. That core word page will definitely guide you in terms of core words that you might want to use. How about I play fast? And then whatever we're doing, we play fast. And I would fill in, you play fast cars. You do play fast because you like to play fast cars. So things like that fall into that category. The other thing I have not shown you is the phonics page, and I apologize for that. I clearly lost out on that one. There is a phonics page in LAMP. And so it's got a phonics page, sound out words. And again, I apologize for all the back and forth. Um, in LAMP, if you go to the spelling page, you'll see on the spelling page, we've got the quintessential, it's about to pop up on yours, quintessential QWERTY keyboard. And I do think it's important kids learn to use a QWERTY keyboard. Just about every new device they face in their lives is going to have one. I don't have an issue teaching them to learn it unless it's a range of motion issue. If they can only access this much, then I would look for a keyboard that fits into that. But you'll see at the top of the page, you've got a phonics keyboard. And each of these sounds, and I'm sorry it's not talking very nicely. Maybe I can
Quoi?
try one last. Oh, it did talk there all of a sudden. But basically, you can hit on it
Ah.
and it says the sound that's coming up. So that is quite cool. And then when you're spelling things out, you can go k, a,
Ah.
t, cat, and then say it, and it'll say cat. It won't say k, a, t, it'll say cat. So it's also quite fun for the kids' names. We might have a child, I've got a child at the moment called Christian. Now, in his case, I don't use the phonics CH. I'm teaching him the CH. And then
Eh. St. Eh. Ah. N.
and then Christian. Because it's a phonics, I'm not teaching the ch because I don't want him to learn his name is Churiston. It's Christian. So we do it, but you can do phonics, and I do use the phonics a lot with the kids. I even use it when we're learning to read, that they sit and sound things out and then let the device read for them if they don't know what the word is. And that's just another backwards way that we can help them go forwards and backwards with literacy. I've talked a long time. Do you guys have questions?